welcome to Talent Takeover Unfiltered. This is another great episode, of course. Taylor, how are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We've been recording all morning, so this gets us on a high. Y'all are gonna, if you listen to these episodes, you could tell we're like 3 in because it's that's how we talk. But
I swear we're not drinking.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
So today we were going to talk about how to handle being laid off, as this is naturally talked about a lot. We see tons of layoffs, tons of turmoil, and really like, how do you handle it? Because there's definitely the right way and the wrong way. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah. And I think that, there is a right way and there is a wrong way. And I mean, everybody's got some emotion tied to this, whatever that emotion is. But I think we're going to touch on some good points today that are not only, just from research and reading that I've done, but also things that I've personally experienced and ways that I've personally approached situations, or, when I've had to be the one doing the layoffs, what I really respected and appreciated from the employee, so I think we're going to give you real life experiences and then also just kind of what you should do in 2022 in this current market, the way you should approach these situations. And definitely make sure that you guys listen all the way to the end. I have a really good broke to boss tip that I think people need to hear right now. And so I really, really am excited to share that with you guys.
Welcome to Talent Takeover
Unfiltered.
When it comes to working hard and keeping it real, we know our shit. Self-care, happiness, inner peace, and time. I'm Brianna Rooney, and this is Taylor Bradley.
Hey, y'all.
And we have thrived in chaos and turned it into an art form. So, Taylor, what are we doing here today?
We're here to give you a raw, under-the-hood view of all things recruiting and finally give credit where credit is due to a long underrated industry that's full of quote-unquote experts.
All right. Well, then let's take this show to the road.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always trying to pay it forward. And if you listen to, the transferable skills episode, if you haven't, definitely check that out, because we do have, that contest, which is super exciting to help 10 individuals. But this is also like that pay it forward. But I kind of think, sometimes, this whole podcast is about paying it forward and venting and insights, which is super fun. I love that.
It is. And it's about saying the shit that people don't say, It's like, I mean, of course, we're going to say it, but it's like now we have an audience of people listening to it. But I actually have really gotten a lot of feedback, as have you, that people just really appreciate the authenticity of saying the things that people don't say, but everybody knows, or, saying and giving them the answers to things that people question and wonder, should I do this or should I do this? And I think this is a good example of that, this episode that we're about to get into. So how to handle being laid off. What to do when there's layoffs. So however you want to call this, whatever you want to call this. One of the things that I personally recommend, just like as a starting point, something that people should be doing anyway, but ask for LinkedIn recommendations in real time. Mm-hmm. So if you're working on a big project, or you have some huge accomplishment or huge win at work, ask for LinkedIn recommendations in real time. And I know I'm guilty of it. A lot of people don't think to do that until it's layoff time. And so that's something, and it could be 6 months later, it could be years later. And so if there's something that you did that was just absolutely groundbreaking or really moved the needle with the company, make sure that you're getting those LinkedIn recommendations in real time, because people look, they really do look. LinkedIn is just as important as a resume in today's world.
Agreed. I would argue that it's more important. That's where I go first. I think we used to go to like all the social medias like Facebook and Instagram. Like we used to kind of stalk people a little bit, but I go straight to their LinkedIn. Like that's my source of truth.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely read those recommendations. And I think you can also see like, wow, you have no recommendations. So I think to me, what that shows is either you're not proud of your work, you're not confident to ask for recommendations, which is its own separate ballgame, because you need to really work with people who own it, right? Or you just didn't care enough. I mean, I think there's lots of reasons why people don't have recommendations.
Well, and also, on the flip side of that, if you're not giving them, you're not getting them. I think that's, I should have said that when I actually first brought this point up, is like, ask for those recommendations, but also give them. If you worked on a project with a team of people, take the initiative, because more than likely they're going to give you one back, if you take the initiative to write them one. And I think that that's something that's very, very powerful for people that are laid off currently and are experiencing. Don't just go to someone and ask for a recommendation. Give them one. If you had a great experience with a manager or, a peer or somebody that's still there, give them one. And I guarantee you, they will give you one back. but I think that making sure that you're doing that in real time is important. So thinking pre-layoffs, before layoffs are even on the horizon, make sure you're doing that. Give recommendations, ask for recommendations. I also think too, one of the things that employees can do right now that are, maybe not the ones impacted, or if layoffs are on the horizon, you've already maybe gone through a round of them, but you were fortunate enough to not be impacted. Consider how your contributions tie into the company's bottom line. So take responsibility for what you're contributing in that moment and what the company needs in that moment. And so that may be a pivot for you. And that goes very well. This episode goes very well with, like you said, our transferable skills. See where the gaps are. Layoffs, you're letting go of people you don't want to let go of. It's different than getting fired. It's a gap there. Most likely it's a gap that somebody else is going to have to fill, or a skeleton crew is going to have to fill, or a manager is going to have to fill. And so, really for the people that are left, like look and see where you can contribute and where those gaps may be.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like when you work for a company, sometimes some people are just clocking in, clocking out. And it's like, and you can tell too. So it's like, and I don't think anyone can be, layoff proof, recession proof, whatever you want to call it. But you can definitely do things that you're one of the last people laid off. And I think that's what we're talking about. And what can help is not only if you were already laid off, but if there, like you said, if there was layoffs, because, if there was layoffs, chances are, unless you're actually help moving the needle and you understand how to move the needle, because I think those are different things. Yeah. They're probably going to be layoffs again. And that's just the bottom line. And so we have to understand, how do you handle it? And attitude is everything.
It really is. It really is. I mean, there's all this stuff that everybody's hearing right now that we could tell you, keep your resume up to date, make any health and dental appointments. It's very, very useful information. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying it, but when there's layoffs coming, to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and doing what you need to do in anticipation, because you truly don't know what tomorrow brings. None of us do, And so I think always, just a rule of thumb, always being prepared, watching your spending, like I said, health and dental appointments, keeping your resume profile up to date. I think it's really, really important once you're laid off, or even before, but to join relevant job groups, networking groups, Slack channels. Those are running rampant right now. We know, in a good way. There's so many different Slack channels for different verticals and industries. I think getting yourself really involved and keeping a pulse on the market and what's going on, and networking. I mean, it's all about who you know.
Networking.
Everything is.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Networking. I mean, I saw someone that was laid off that I worked with for a really long time. I know you know what I'm talking about. And that person never reached out to me. And I'm like, I could possibly help you. I'm not saying I can help you, but I was just really surprised. And I think the unfortunate part during layoffs is it attacks your psyche, your confidence, everything. Even though you weren't fired, that's totally different. It does attack something inside of you that you get embarrassed. And it's like, don't do that. Use your network, use your people. People want to help in general. I think people are good people. There's some assholes out there, right? But there are good people, and they in general want to help. And I think that that's super important to reach out to, even if you haven't talked to this person in a long time. Reach out.
What do you have to lose?
You never know.
Yeah. Like, what do you have to lose?
You have nothing to lose.
One of those situations where I feel like it's never a poor reflection to reach out whenever you have been laid off. I mean, unless you're reaching out to a previous employer that fired you, and you have moved on, and like that's a different situation. But I mean, reach out, connect, networking is everything. But I also think this goes back to, like, you need to be doing those things anyway. These are things that you need to be doing prior to layoffs ever happening, because it's all about who you know, wherever you want to get in your career, whatever you want to do. It's all about who you know. But really getting into, like, how to handle it in that moment. And I know that you have some stories about this. I definitely have plenty of stories about that. But when you're one of the people that's approached for a layoff, it's really, really critical that you remain calm and don't let your emotions get the best of you. And yes, I know, so much easier said than done, but it's so important, because a big mistake that people make is they take it too personally. They have a poor reaction. And again, I know it's hard to not take personal, but if you have a poor reaction and an external poor reaction, you risk burning a bridge. And those recommendations we talked about, references, whatever it is, even though you're not getting fired, you're getting laid off probably due to economic or business conditions. So don't ruin it there. You know, you could have had great tenure. You could have been there 5 years. Don't ruin it at the last moment by how you react in a moment where your emotions are running high. It's so much easier said than done. I get that. I know everybody's like, what the fuck? Of course, you're going to be emotional about being laid off. Who wouldn't be? But just you can always be respectful. And I think that you should share with everybody the story that you shared with me about the approach that somebody had with the friend that you were talking to. And that gave us both chills. Like, share that with them.
Yeah. And real quick, you just made me think of, you know how we talk about first impressions all the time?
Yeah.
What about last impressions? You know, like that's the biggie. You know,
It's
those
so true.
last impressions last the longest. You're not thinking about that first time. You're thinking about, you know, what happened lately, you know,
Yeah.
what just happened. And that's what's going to stick with you. And then, you know, a lot of times in layoffs, you know, people do come back. You do hire back. You know, that's the whole point, right? Like, hey, come back. Like, we got you now. Like, business is good. But that person's not getting hired back. So crazy.
Yeah. Handle it with grace because, you know, you were talking about there's somebody that you're surprised didn't reach out to you. I'm surprised they didn't reach out to me. I could help them right now. I know people hiring right now, you know, that we were just on with Andrew and Roblox. Although I don't know him personally, you know, they're still hiring. There's companies still hiring out there. And again, it's all about who you know. So yes, I mean, we've both have worked with employees that the last moment that we remember about them, despite their tenure and how amazing they were the entire time, was kind of like a train wreck. I know you know who I'm talking about. And it's like, that's all you remember now after that. And you were a great employee for a year. And so I definitely think that you hit on something there. Like, not only do first impressions matter, those last impressions and how you handle the situation matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this story, and I'm definitely going to say this is not with our company. I will be very clear. But you know, layoffs are everywhere. And so I had a good friend of mine have to go through that. And one person, she has two different stories. One person, you know, got very angry, very short. It was to the point where they had to get off the call. Like, it was that bad. And they were like, wow, like, and they're saying all these great things. The severance package is giant, you know, so that's like its own separate thing that we don't even talk about, because some companies can give big severance packages and some companies just can't. Some don't give anything at all because that's how bad it is, right? So then that was its own holy moly, you're definitely not coming back situation. And then on the other side of the coin, there was this person who was, again, having the same conversation, stopped the manager and said, hey, this must be really hard for you. I just want to take a moment to thank you for everything you've done for me. And I'm sorry that you're having to do this right now, but I'm going to be okay. And so will you. And I'm getting the chills now telling the story again, because I was like, that person's getting hired back in 2 seconds, you know, like, holy moly, or they're going to do anything and everything in their power to help that person, because that's a gem.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I was going to add to that, like, or they're going to stick their neck out to find them something, because that is true class. That's grace. That is just like exactly how you would hope somebody would handle that situation. And I mean, it's, again, I understand it's hard to not take it personal, but that reaction will get them so much further in their job search than being angry about it and realizing, like, it's out of that person's control. Whoever's communicating it is just the messenger. It's outside of their control, you know? And so I think that it's, again, I get that emotions are running high, but it's very, very important to remain courteous, professional, and still, you know, if you're still there for a couple weeks, focus on the task at hand and what you need to do and get done, and walk out with your dignity intact, walk out with everybody respecting you. And, you know, obviously on the other side of that, when you talk about those companies with big severances and whatnot, you know, some of them, depending upon your reaction and what you do, could definitely violate policies and things like that could potentially, you know, interfere with the benefits that you get with that severance or the impact that severance. I definitely think another thing we have to add, because of the world that we live in today, it's really important to not put up any volatile or, you know, any social media posts like about the company, attacking the company. Once it's out there, it's out there. Even if you delete it, I guarantee you somebody's seen it. You know, I think it's really important for everybody to handle things however they want to, right? Like, who am I to tell somebody how to handle their emotions? It's just, I've just seen it firsthand. That will never work in your favor, ever. And it actually will make you look awful to any future employees. It will make you look and everybody researches everyone, as we've talked about, like that doesn't, it may feel good in that moment to just be like, fuck them, but it's not the move. It's not the play, and you will probably regret it.
Mm-hmm.
You will definitely regret it.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, that person that was like, hey, I hope you're doing okay. I mean, first of all, that's amazing, but that shows how strong their emotional intelligence is. And again, the combo of high emotional intelligence and work ethic, you can do anything and everything, and everyone's going to want to work with you. And that's the key. That's that transferable skill. I was just thinking, we didn't exactly like touch on it. We touch on it in lots of different ways, but straight up, like you cannot, like your ability to handle everything is your choice. It doesn't matter what's brought at you. It matters how you handle it and how you bring it. And, you always want to be that better person. My mom would always be like, you don't have anything nice to say. Don't say anything at all. And it's like, okay, I'm being quiet now, Mom.
Well,
but that's true. And
so true. Does that. Yeah. I mean, I always tell my kids, I'm like, whoever controls their emotions wins. And I don't always follow that. Like, I don't always follow that. I have my moments all the time, but I'm like, whoever controls their emotions wins. When the brothers are messing with each other and one's trying to get a rile out of the other, get the other one all riled up. And it's like, but that applies to life in general. You and I have talked about situations that I've been in where it's like, when I've controlled my emotions and let the universe just takes care of it just takes care of it, right? Like you control your emotions, you handle yourself with dignity, with grace, with class. It'll work out how it's supposed to.
Absolutely. And then when you're getting laid off and you take that high route, again, people remember that, that's when you go to, your managers, your peers, whoever, hopefully people in different departments, because you've already made yourself known, your presence known. That's definitely something that's really important. But then you go to them and say, hey, what jobs do you think I would be great for? I think that's a really great question to ask other people, because sometimes it's very difficult to understand like your self-worth, your genius. Like there's lots of times. That's why we do a genius mapping when people join us, to say like, hey, did you know you're really good at this?
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. It's very clear. Like we could rattle off probably each other's attributes quicker than we could do our own.
Yeah, it's so true.
And that's something that's powerful.
That's a really, really good recommendation for people to go to other mentors or managers in other departments, other people that they've cross collaborated with and been like, going back to our previous episode of transferable skills. What do you think I'd be good at? What do you think? And then, I mean, I know that there's so many people here that we work with, whether impacted or not, that I would gladly stick my neck out for and write recommendation letters for, even though they may have not directly worked on this or that. I mean, we're a startup, so we get to do a lot of cool shit across a lot of different departments, and a lot of other startups, it's same, So I think that there's, just because maybe on paper they didn't have that job title, doesn't mean that somebody wouldn't be willing to recommend you or give you guidance on like, you'd be really, really great at this. I know this is what you've done, but this could be another career path that you should definitely explore. I definitely, going back to the layoffs and how to handle it, I think it's really important for every person who is laid off. I know how scary it is. I've been there. I've been in that situation. I've literally been given a box and laid off and let go that day before. Crazy. And it's, give yourself time. The emotional recovery of losing job, depending on the person, could take days, weeks, months, but give yourself the permission and space to grieve. I think a lot of people lose their identity or lose a piece of their identity because a lot of myself included, my identity is wrapped up in work. So being laid off, you could feel like you lose a piece of your identity, and that there's an emotional toll that takes on you. So give yourself time to figure out what your next steps are. And that's obviously differs dependent upon the person, but whatever you need to do, take a minute, give yourself time, and realize that layoff is not the same as being fired. It's not. You got to keep reminding yourself that.
You gave me the chills when you said permission to grieve. Permission. Like you actually have to give yourself permission to feel. And holy moly, that is like resonated with me so much. I feel like it has to be its own episode, because giving yourself permission to sit back, to recharge, to move forward. Because with any big change, and obviously a layoff is a giant one, any big change, you feel like, nope, got to keep going, just keep moving, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And if you do that, you will crumble. It might not be today, tomorrow, but you will crumble, and will take it's hard to get back up. That's a choice, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Love that. Permission.
And I think that you'll end up like, there'll be some residual effects of that. If somebody just is like, and again, I totally get it. I've been there where you're literally like, oh shit, I need a job. What am I going to do? And you go right into trying to find another one without really processing the emotions that come with having been with the company years or months or whatever the case is. And it's like, allow yourself that space to feel what you need to feel before you get right back in there, because you need your head on straight. You got to be focused in that job search. And then, I think this segues beautifully into our broke to boss tip, which I was reading all about this stuff last night. And this one resonated with me so much in so many different aspects of life, not just layoffs, but especially right now. Make sure that you're maintaining the same schedule that you had pre-layoff. And, that can help with some of the psychological effects. So get up at the same time, get dressed, continue your workout routine. It's a good time right now to consider whether you want to broaden your skills to jobs in other industries, or if there's a different career path that you might enjoy. It could end up being an opportunity versus a crisis.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I was giving you that. So people I know, watching that. I was like, beep, beep, snap, 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 snap. Love that. By the way, love that instead of the clap, by the way. Whoever thought of that is brilliant. So yeah, you can definitely watch this on the Millionaire Crew YouTube, because I mean, she is just given like all the goods. That was incredible. And that also touches the growth mindset that Andrew Robach had on in the other episode. You haven't watched that. That's amazing. That's amazing. But oh my gosh, that's great. I mean, yes, you have to have your same routine. It's so easy to dip into a depression. Again, give yourself the permission to grieve and to take that time off and stuff like that. But yeah, you're not in your PJs all day. You're not showing up to interviews and just, oh, here we go, woe is me. Like that's just, that's stinky cheese written all over it.
Yeah. And maybe again, like I loved, like it could be an opportunity versus a crisis, and it's all about your mindset. But it may take you a minute to get there. So do what you have to do to process it, feel it, but you need to get into that mindset of like, this is an opportunity versus a crisis. You've got to get there to move forward. And, going back to that contest we're having, I am happy to help anybody, as I know you are, that it was impacted, is feeling away. They need some guidance, maybe us to look at their resume or, coaching sessions, whatever it is. Again, I've personally been through it. I know how hard it is, but you will be okay.
Yeah. You will. And
I think sometimes people need to hear that. You'll be okay.
Yeah. You'll be okay if you let yourself be okay also. I think that's its own separate thing as well. And of course, this leads into, like we were saying, via Thriversity, the station, we also mock interview with you. And interviewing is a science. That is clear. There's tons of, reports on that. But let us help you. Let us talk you through things. Let us, and once you start saying things out loud, I feel like this is a therapy session at this point, but once you start saying things out loud, it becomes true. It becomes real. You understand, you hear things clearer, I love that. Great episode.
Yeah. It was a good episode. I know it was quick, but it was like, I feel like we got some good nuggets out there, and we'd love to get everybody's feedback. I know we say this every time, but if there's any way that we can help you, reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn, definitely do the contest. We're really looking forward to seeing all the people that, are interested in the contest and engage with us there, but we're here for you, We are. If there's anything else that you'd like us to touch on, or any topics that you're like, I'd really like you guys to talk about this, and it's relevant to what's going on in the world. I mean, we love all of that. So we appreciate your feedback, you subscribing, your reviews, all that good shit.
Love it. Wow. You just handled the housekeeping. Love it. We'll see you next Tuesday.
You're welcome. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.